Hello, I'm Tom Oberhue. Welcome to segment 1, lockdown and permissions. Now we're going to look at the lockdown. We're going to look at it from two different perspectives, the technical side and the conceptual side. We're going to look at these two different perspectives in parallel to see how they relate to each other. The technical is important because it has the 1, 2, 3, the nuts and bolts of the movement. The conceptual is important because it has the big rocks, the big things we need to keep in mind. On the technical side, there are 5 parts to the lockdown. Part 1 is controlling the near side arm. Part 2, controlling the near side hip. Part 3 is controlling the far shoulder, what I'm going to call the landing pad. Part 4 is holding your opponent with 4 on the floor, keeping them flat. And part 5 is putting on that intended lean. On the conceptual side of the equation, there are 3 parts. Part 1 is the landing. Part 2 is securing, and part 3 is turning on the pressure. So let's go through the 5 points of the technical lockdown. Part 1 is controlling the near side arm. And your opponent is going to give you a frame, and your job is to get around that frame or over that frame or under that frame as quickly as possible, not going through it. We're going to employ those pressures that we did before. Contour, sag, and hug. So if I'm in and I'm coming into that landing, I'm going to work to clear the near side arm. I'm going to bring my hip through and get in tight. For me, a key element of landing is that I must be in contact with my opponent. More than just holding him, I need to be able to exert my gravitational pull. I need to connect with him. Secondly, I need to control the near side hip. That's this hip back here. And I can actually do it physically with my hand, either grabbing his gi or putting my hand underneath his hip. But I can use any other barrier or blocker as well. I can use my back knee by bringing it up. So if I'm in that harness position, my back knee is going to be covering his near side hip. But notice that my foot, right here, needs to fan underneath my butt. If I leave it out, there's a chance that he could scoop it up with his leg, and then things are going to get kind of challenging. So I'm going to keep my heel underneath me. I can also sprawl out. I'm dropping my bottom hip to the floor and getting tight, like this. This, along with a hug, is going to make it very challenging for the opponent to bring his near side knee in and recover guard. That's part 2. Now, part 3, we talk about controlling this far side shoulder. And I like to entitle this area right here as the landing pad. I want to take my chest and land right on my opponent's chest, or this shoulder. So I'm going to get my chest on this landing pad. Visually, to show you, it'd be like putting my hand right here and then having Armand turn towards me. This is his leading edge, and I'm going to control that. I'm going to get pressure on it so that it can't come and turn into me. That's controlling that far shoulder, or the landing pad. Part 4 is the idea of 4 on the floor. And what I mean by that is we take a look at our opponent and say shoulder, shoulder, hip, hip. We really want to get all 4 of those points flat on the floor. Our opponent isn't going to be terribly cooperative, though. So this is where we need to use a sag and a contour in conjunction to kind of feel him out and work to get him flat. It's almost kind of a working or kind of a settling in. It'll take a little time, kind of like riding a bicycle. You'll start to feel it, but your goal is to get your opponent flat so that he's 4 on the floor, he's bearing your weight, there is no edge. The last component of the technical is the intended lean. Off of this harness, I'm going to drive or lean in a 45-degree direction and put some pressure on Armand. It's like he's doing a half crunch. There's an abdominal strain that prevents him from being explosive and really igniting or turning hard towards me. Those are the 5 components of the technical lockdown. So now that we've gone through the 5-point technical, let's match it up to the 3-point conceptual. What I particularly like about the conceptual game, or the conceptual perspective, is that it gives you a little more freedom because there are multiple right answers. The key is to satisfy that milestone, that big concept that you're trying to achieve: landing, securing, or turning on pressure. I'd like to show 2 examples of the landing, and you're going to see they're vastly different as far as the mechanics. But conceptually, they're achieving the exact same goal, and that's the power of thinking about things conceptually. The first one, I'm going to be in Armand's guard. I'm working my pass, so his leg's up on my leg, I'm working, and his hand is on my hip. What I'm going to do now is employ a contour. I'm going to bring my knee up and over, I come through, and I sag back. I'm now on him, I'm connected. I certainly have not made it to the secure concept yet, but I have landed. This is good. Now, second example, I might be coming through a pass and Armand's elbow and knee are together. He's created what we like to call the magical bubble. He's not allowing me in. And if I drive straight into him, I'm going to end up just running into a wall. But if I use that contour and a little sag, I can open this up and find myself in a landed position. So what I'll do is as I come through, I'll drive my hips forward, walk my hips back, boom, and bring my hips back up. This gives me a high cross sides. I'm now snug, and now I can work on securing and turning on pressure. So I'm going to give you some technical things to think about. The first thing when we're dealing with cross sides and positional dominance and positional maintenance. Okay, to me, positional dominance is getting to the position that you want. It's like a hierarchy. We want to get to certain positions. For me, I really enjoy cross sides top. So I know mount's supposed to be the end all be all. Obviously, back with hooks is pretty dang cool too. But I feel like the most fertile and the most creative in cross sides top. That's what works for me. But we definitely like mount top and we definitely like back with hooks, particularly with the harness. But we're going to talk about cross sides top in conjunction with pressure. My first goal, and I call this the landing phase, is I have to do 2 things in the landing phase. I need to clear the near side arm and I need to control the near side hip. So that's what we need to do to land. I define landing is when my body is on his body and we have made contact. Houston, we have touchdown. That's what we're looking for. We want to touch. Okay? If I'm out here in orbit, if I'm out here in the stratosphere, we do not have touchdown. We are in his magical bubble and he can frame and he can move and he's not in my gravitational pull yet. Okay, I'm trying to break through the atmosphere. So, first order of business is clearing the near side arm. I need to get his near side arm one of 3 places. Here, here, or here. I'm actually going to add a 4th one, but it's just kind of a transitional one, or right here. Okay? Notice it's the extremes. That's where we really want the arm, is in the extremes. Extremely north, extremely south, extremely in, extremely out. What we don't want is any of this stuff pretty much from about 20 degrees around to about like, I don't know, 85 degrees. Anything right in here gives him power and structure, keeps me away from him. So we're going to employ that contour that we talked about before. So as I'm coming around and I'm working to get to cross sides, I haven't landed yet, I'm going to use my hips to clear that elbow. As Dave is coming to receive me, what I'm going to do is, in this one, I'm going to just contour and roll over, boom, and come down. His arm is down here, that's good. It actually ties right into the second one. I'm going to grab that near side hip. I'm either going to slide my hand underneath his butt, or I'm going to put that knee right in there. Doesn't matter what I use as the blocker. It can either be my hand on his gi, my hand under his butt, or my knee on his hip. But either way, I have to control that near side. So I've landed now because I own the arm, the near side arm, and I own the hip. Okay? If I'm here, and he's here and he hasn't let me land and he's pushing into my hip, I can switch my hip here. Grab a tether, I'm going to hook, and then roll over. Boom. Okay? Now I can continue on, or I can back up and end up cross sides. His arm is up here on my hip. I'm controlling him. I've landed. I saw a lot of people still kind of doing this, like kind of running in, or they'd move their hips just once, and then he'd still regroup. I really think it's a subtle motion, and it's how you move your entire body in conjunction with the subtlety of your hips. Example, if he gives me this magical bubble, I'm going to tether onto his hand. I'm going to get connection. That's first and foremost. If I have no tether, he can disconnect and move. Okay, so I'm going to tether, but I'm going to move my hips north. I'm going to then back up. Then I'm going to roll. I did like 3 things there, right? And it's my responsibility to do it because he's not going to do it for me. We'll give him an elbow and knee. That's it. Good. Yes! Good. And I like how you're parking the car. That's good. Now you can maybe even take your right hand and pull that tricep up to really bring your hip in. But everything you did was good. I like how you're turning. So bring your knee through, drive back. Now pull that, yes. Good, now really compress. That's good. Good, yeah. That's it. But you're using your hips, you're kind of cutting in with your hips. Rather than just using your tummy and driving straight in, you're turning, yeah? Good, let me see you do it, Mike. Drive forward, drop that hip, yes. Good, now I still think, freeze. No. See, there's space right here though. Feel that? Turn your tummy towards me and drive your hip north. Come to me. Drive this leg through. Now drive up. Good, now sit back down. Go back this way. Boom, see how much higher that elbow is? See how much deeper you got it? Does that feel different? Yeah. See what I'm saying? To me, owning the near side hip can mean controlling the gi pant. It can be making your hand a blade and coming right underneath his butt cheek. It can be putting your knee right into his hip.